think of. And in this remarkable community, SIPA is privileged to count as one of our alumni the mayors of several cities, including Mayor Garcetti of Los Angeles, who's a graduate both of Columbia University and SIPA, and was in the special 5-year program we have between the college and SIPA. Now, his earliest days as an undergraduate at the college, Eric Garcetti had already displayed his commitment to urban issues. He co-founded an organization called the Columbia Urban Experience to help new students learn about New York City's neighborhoods, and he actively supported the Harlem Restoration Project to rebuild community housing. And while on the Los Angeles City Council, for which he served as president for 4 terms, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was a champion for making the city more pedestrian-friendly and was a driving force behind Proposition O, a $500 million initiative to clean up the city's storm drain system, and he worked to double park space in the district. And he was elected mayor of Los Angeles fairly recently, May 2013, and he's already implemented an agenda for the city that focuses on job creation, on solving everyday problems for residents, including his Great Streets initiative to support the revitalization of neighborhoods, increase public safety, and build effective public spaces. He's recently outlined a new vision for sustainability in Los Angeles, and we are honored to recognize Mayor Garcetti for his dedication. Please join me in welcoming him to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean Jano. Thank you for the kind introduction. Thank you all for being here as well. And it is truly an honor to accept this award tonight in front of so many friends and fellow supporters of Columbia. And I want to thank my fellow mayor. I want to thank Eduardo for, oftentimes we thank people we're honored with and we read about it, and that's why we thank them. But both with Eduardo and with Edward, I have personal reasons to say thank you, because we've worked together on C40, which is the collection of cities around the world that are going to, I think, lead countries to make the changes that they need to save our environment. And Edward at City, who has been such an extraordinary partner in Los Angeles at this moment. I think 2015 is one of those years, just as 2004 was for marriage equality, just as 1965 was for the civil rights struggle. This is the year of the immigrant, and this is the year that we will get immigration equality in this country, and City has been so supportive of what we are doing in Los Angeles to transform libraries and parks into places where people can go down the pathway towards citizenship and integration in this country. So thank you, Eduardo, for being one of the world's great mayors, and I think Rio is tied right up there with LA and New York as the best city anywhere. And thank you, Edward, for what City is doing as well. Let's give them a round of applause. And I want to thank Mayor Dinkins. Where's Mayor Dinkins? Over there. I want to thank Professor Mayor Dinkins. For those of you who weren't part of the discussion we had a little earlier, when I was a Columbia student, I got to have dinner with the mayor of New York, and it was the most exciting thing when I was an undergrad. I was like, wow, here I am having dinner with the mayor of New York, and to have the chance to now come back and to sit in a quiet conversation we had earlier about cities, and to actually be a fellow mayor now alongside you. Thank you for your grace, your intelligence, your strength, and everything you have done to show us what a mayor is really about. Thank you so much, Mayor Dinkins. I fell in love with cities when I was born in a great city in Los Angeles. And when I decided to go to college, it was clear to me I had to see another great city. I could have gone and studied other places, but this was a no-brainer for me to come to Columbia because I wanted to see how that other big city in America worked. And it's such a different city. This is a vertical town, and I come from a horizontal place. This is a place where the boundaries are clear, and LA's boundaries never seem to stop. But there's so much that we have in common more than separates us. We are great cities that are the welcoming doors to folks from around the world. It doesn't matter where you come from, LA, Rio as well, and Los Angeles. Don't judge where you've come from, only where you want to go to. And cities to me were always so exciting. When I studied at SIPA And by the way, to our 2 other honorees, it's great to see that people without a SIPA degree can succeed too. I mean, I know that when you have a SIPA degree, you will succeed, but it's nice to know people without SIPA degrees can succeed too. But I wanted to study international relations because, to me, growing up on the streets of a city like LA, which goes for New York and Rio as well, you see the face of the world on the streets of your city. And that arms you with something that a lot of other people don't have. The confidence that whenever you leave your city and go onto the streets of another city around the world, I saw the face of Los Angeles when I visited Cairo and Mumbai and Tokyo and Mexico City for the first time. I was at home anywhere in the world. And so when I got to study at SIPA, what I got to learn was how to take the openness and that ability to cross borders and to interact on one side or another of an issue and really learn the skills that SIPA teaches you. Professors like Judith Russell, who was my mentor, who taught me so much about urban policy. Folks like Oscar Schachter and Louis Henkin, who actually helped write human rights law, brought it into existence. I was in the classroom studying with them. But then SIPA kicks you out of the classroom and says, you actually have to do real work to get the degree. And so I went off to Burma right after the crackdown had happened there following democratic elections and spent time in a war zone teaching members of the underground from Burma, students, fellow students, monks, ethnic minorities, about what we could do to continue their struggle to resist an autocratic and oppressive government. See, what you do in the classroom has to have a basis in the real world, and what you do in the real world has to have reflection in the classroom. That's what SIPA teaches you. That's why this award is so meaningful to me. I graduated in 1993, although technically it was 1995 because I had an outstanding statistics class I had to send in from Oxford a couple years later, but students don't do that, get your degree the year you graduate. But in the early 90s, mid-90s, whenever it was that I got that degree, I realized that it was a turning point in my life. And a few years later, when I came back home to America and ran for city council, people said, how the heck are you running for city council when you studied international relations? And I could just put a mirror to my city and say, have you seen Los Angeles lately? Have you seen Rio? Have you seen New York? In order to understand any city, any great global city, you better understand the world. Because you're going to be called upon to go on a trade mission and bring jobs home. And if you don't know something about China, good luck in this day and age. In your city, if you are going to serve your diverse and pluralistic population to do the things like the immigration reform that we're pushing so hard for, and that I want to thank Mayor de Blasio in this town, a fellow SIPA grad, who he and I came together with Mayor Rahm Emanuel to say that mayors are going to push Washington forward when Washington doesn't act. And we went to court together to file an amicus brief in support of the President's executive action to support the immigrants of this country. And I want to thank Mayor de Blasio for his strong, strong leadership on that. To me, it was the flip side of an international affairs degree. And I feel so lucky to be a mayor right now. Mayor Pais is right. We have the best jobs in the world. There's a book out right now called What If Mayors Ruled the World? I have it right next to me whenever I take any meetings, just so people know that we are beginning to. But all joking aside, it says that the national level, Professor Benjamin Barber wrote it, he said the national level is becoming less and less effective, certainly in this country. When my class of mayors that were elected in 2013 sat down with the President and the Vice President, the White House, in this great welcoming, and we went around the table, we all had the same issues. Republicans, Democrats, Midwesterners, Southerners, Westerners, East Coasters. We all saw that this country's inequality and our competitiveness and our place in the world and what we would do with our natural environment, that we had to come together as cities. And I told the President of the United States, I said, if this was the 60s or the 70s and America's cities were burning, we would be coming to Washington to say, please, Washington, save America's cities. But now it's inverse. America's cities are here to save Washington. Because when Washington can't get things done on transportation or the environment or immigration or inequality or housing, it is America's cities that will lead that fight. So I thank SIPA for arming me with the weapons, the tools, the lessons, and the experience to, I hope, be a better mayor than I ever would have been had I not gone to this great school. The Greeks used the same word for both city and politics, polis. And in a time when we see politics as this dirty thing, where people just shout at each other on Fox or MSNBC, where nothing gets done anymore, we have to remember that People came to cities not just to be safe, but to find politics, each other, and to engage in that. That it wasn't seen as something bad, it was seen as the responsibility of the citizen, or the citizen, as I like to call them. That each one of us who lives in a city must engage with that city and with the world around you. Breathe life into a city, and you will breathe life into this world. And if you breathe life into this world, you will revitalize the cities that are where a majority of human beings live for the first time. And I'll close with this. Aristotle once wrote that the city came into being to preserve life, but it exists for the good life. In other words, we came to cities to be safe, but that is not the end goal. At the end of the day, take the degree that you have or that you are supporting through your kind support this year of SIPA, and make sure that you understand that we don't come to cities just to be protected. We come to cities to find and to define what the good life means to each one of us. To have that opportunity to go out in a safe street and have dinner on a date and fall in love and marry somebody. To hear music that stirs the soul that otherwise we never would have heard, that we will remember in our last breaths. And as we look back in life, we won't remember how many days we lived, but we will remember those moments in our cities if we build them well, where our life was affected and our life changed and we were part of something great. And so I dedicate this to our urban centers of the world for the innovation that SIPA leads, and count me as a proud soldier and alum along the way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti.